Oh, there you are. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to a very, very special edition of Atlanta Divorce Law Group's Facebook Live. We have author and image consultant Lee Heyward with us. I'm so excited to have Lee here. Lee is the author of Strategically Suited that you can find on Amazon, and she is the CEO of her own company, which is called The Prosperous Image. And Lee is joining us from Charleston right now. We're doing a split screen with each other. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, Lee goes all over the country and consults companies, CEOs, entrepreneurs on how to find their best image so they can take a step forward with full confidence in everything that they want to accomplish in their lives. So Lee, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit today about how a man or a woman who is going through this big transition in their life, in our case from Atlanta Divorce Law Group, it's a divorce typically, and they now are refinding themselves and they get to choose who they want to be. And part of that is deciding from inside out what all that means. And from your experience and expertise, where should such a person start on creating their self-image once they've gone through this big transition and now they want to step into their new life?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here. So it's really interesting because I think you don't realize over time how many things affect the image that you're portraying and honestly who you become. And so you start off as a kid, like your mom tells you what to wear, and then, you know, your friends are like, don't wear that, or whatever it is. And so you have this like hodgepodge of reasons of why in the world you look and feel the way you do. And so when you do have a fresh start, like a divorce, it's kind of a really cool opportunity to take a step back and actually ask yourself how you want to feel. And this is not really what people think I would say. Most of the time, you think you'd be like, oh, look through a magazine and figure out how you want to look. But you have to start with how you want to feel. And there's actually a cool exercise if you want to play along with me. I think you've seen me do this before, where you literally just ask yourself, like, you know, come up with 3 words that resonate with you in terms of what would make you feel most confident. And what are those 3 words? I mean, they could be like sexy, they could be powerful, they could be glamorous, it can be anything. And that's where you start.
Okay. And so a lot of our clients that are going through this process, they have to start dating again, or they now are taking the ring off of their finger, and they almost, for some of them, feels like that scarlet A on their chest that nobody can see, but they feel when they're walking around. How could you help them, or how can they help themselves build that self-confidence again to get themselves back out there again as they're finding their new life?
Well, I think you really have to start with, like, who do you want to be in this next relationship? I had a client one time, and I think I've told you this story before, where, you know, one of her big things is that, you know, she lived in a city where it was like culinarily, that's not even a word, but like just delightful. It was amazing to go out to eat. And her past husband had taken her constantly. They always wanted to go to like Applebee's or whatever, which is totally fine, but it just wasn't who she was and who she wanted to be. So we actually used that desire of who she wanted to be in her life, which was somebody who was at the new restaurants within 2 weeks of them opening, or trying something new constantly, to figure out how to kind of reverse engineer what she's going to look like. And that in turn was going to help attract the right person who isn't going to want to stay home all the time and then go out to Applebee's. Is going to want to do constantly new and fresh things.
And I think that is exactly what, it's a perfect segue to what I should have started off with, which is, can you tell us a little bit about what is an image consultant? And because a lot of people have this, you know, notion in their head that you help them go and shop and find pretty clothes to wear, but it's so much more than that. And, you know, our office has worked with you, and I know other people that have worked with you, and how deep that work can be. So can you talk a little bit about what you just said? This is more about deciding who you are and making a change from the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so there's a lot of different names, I think, for people sort of in this image industry who are kind of going in and helping you feel your best and look your best. So you've got people who call themselves personal stylists. You've got people that call themselves image strategists. You've got people at like Nordstrom who are personal shoppers. And at the end of the day, everybody is doing the same thing in terms of, you know, putting the right thing on you. My strategy comes from actually developing a strategy. So if your goal is to develop a certain life that you want, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal, whether it's in a relationship, then you start by designing that life first. And then you figure out how you can align who you are, the most authentic version of yourself, with the life that you're building. Right. So it's kind of a different approach than just like, let's put some clothes on and make you look pretty, which yes, can totally work. It's just that my approach to image strategy kind of builds it backwards from the inside out.
And so many of our clients, they have never really been asked, who are you? I mean, most people have never been asked, who are you and how do you identify yourself? And that 3-word exercise that you have is just so powerful. It's to have to boil down to how you want to feel to 3 words. And then determining from there what fits in that and what doesn't fit in that. And this transition, you know, the divorce process is a transition where for the first time you get to select that. And there isn't, and you've kind of broken that barrier of those commitments that kept you locked in a place where you didn't want to be in, being somebody you didn't want to be anymore. But I wanted to kind of address the issue of going back to the stay-home mom who was working from home for many years, never really had to think about what she should wear on a date, or even had to think about what she would wear in her new career, because that, you know, she was a stay-home mom that was taking care of everybody else. Where does that woman even start as far as deciding what do I look like outside of caring for my children and driving everybody around and taking care of my husband? Where does she even start?
Out of the mom bus? Like, how do you get out of the mom bus? So, all right. So a really cool exercise to do when you really are just starting and you're a little lost is go to the store and buy a bunch of magazines. Rip everything out of the magazine that you're just drawn to. Like, it's a perfect world. There's no money, nothing. There's like no money problems. There's no relationship problems. There's no time problems. Everything is a perfect world. And you just rip things out of a magazine that you're like, ooh, that's pretty, that's fun, that's whatever. And you kind of do it with almost no thought at all. Afterwards, you kind of compile everything and you take a moment and you kind of look through and you start to look for patterns. Like, oh gosh, I seem to like a lot of color, or I seem to like things that are really girly, or everything is like, I'm gonna kill somebody, like whatever it is, like edgy or fun. And you can start to develop the patterns there. And that can give you a visual place to start. And then you go back to the exercise of like, okay, here's a scenario that I'd be really excited about. I'm meeting a new friend. I'm meeting a new man, whatever the scenario is. And then you ask yourself, how do you want to feel in that scenario? And that can help you kind of have both the visual part and the feeling part. So that if you do go to the store, you go stand in your closet and you figure out, all right, what am I going to wear for this? It's got to match both of those things.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that really what you feel on the inside has to match on the outside.
Yeah.
And what do you say to the person who says, I just feel like crap, Lee. I feel like crap inside. I've gone through a divorce. You know, you just feel like I'm falling apart. So I need to look like I'm falling apart when I go outside? What would you tell me?
Okay. So this is an excellent and interesting point. So for that person, I'm going to send them straight to the hair salon to have a blowout.
Okay.
Just to have the idea of like just pampering and just spending that time for yourself. And then you might not be able to see it. I mean, sometimes you're in a place where you just can't see it for yourself. And that's when you do need to get a new friend, or not a new friend, a good friend, or a stylist or an image consultant who can help you see it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you've lost that part of yourself for so long, all you do see is the crap on the outside. That is how you feel on the inside. So sometimes you need somebody to mirror that back to you.
And I think that's what's so amazing about coaches, or I mean, I think of what you do as basically a form of coaching, the work you do with people, and because they can see something, it's a trusted relationship, and they can see something in you that you may not be able to see in yourself. But that trust you have in them, you start seeing yourself from their lens, and that could really be a powerful transition for you, seeing something that everybody else is seeing, but you're not. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to the mom example, and forgive me because there's a lot of dads out there that probably find themselves in the same situation, but we do live in a society where this is typically, we hear it more from the mom side than the dad side. But the mom that says, Lee, I'm just too busy for all that. There is no way I can go and recreate my image right now. I'm now a single mom. I have to find a job because alimony only covers me so much. Child support only covers so much. And looking fabulous is expensive and it's time consuming.
Yeah, it's a great point and it's a great question. And it does take some time and effort, but the time and effort can be done in a different way than people think. It doesn't have to be like spending hours at the store, or it can be easier than you think. I mean, for starters, there's all these different companies out there that are like delivering stuff to you in a box. Things like Stitch Fix, Le Tote, the other ones are escaping my mind at the moment. Even places like Rent the Runway, where if you did have a date, then you don't have to go out and shop. You literally could rent a cute dress and there you go. Yeah. And you didn't even have to leave your home, and you got to do that at 11:30 at night after the kids are in bed. The other thing that I always recommend is have a friend who you trust and you think also looks good. Come over after the kids are in bed, have some wine, go clean your closet, make your, here's what's going to happen when I go on a date outfit. When, you know, when somebody says, let's do this, you're ready with your coffee outfit. You're ready with your dinner out outfit. You're ready with your like wedding outfit. And that'll also kind of show you what you need so that you don't feel like you're starting from nothing. So it does take some effort. It is one of these things that's totally worth the effort, because once you do have these things in your closet, then it becomes easy and takes no time at all.
Yeah. And one of the things I always love about your advice is it's not about having a ton of stuff. It's having a few of the right things. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure.
And you kind of go through that process where once you know who you are and you know what your words are of how you want to feel, then you have that test to run everything through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once you figure out your 3 words, one of the like little tricks is like write them on 2 sticky notes and put 1 sticky note in your wallet and 1 sticky note in your closet. Mm-hmm. And it allows you to kind of like, when you're getting dressed, ask yourself, like, is this the old version of me, or is this the me that is going to be sexy, glamorous, and awesome?
And what is your advice for working with some of those services that you mentioned, like Stitch Fix or Rent the Runway? Do you have any tips on how to, you know, have most successful with working with those companies?
Yeah. So the key to Rent the Runway is the reviews. Like, read the reviews, look at the pictures. The pictures are worth, you know, everything. They will tell you a lot. The key to the box services like Stitch Fix, Le Tote, that kind of thing, is being really disciplined. Don't keep crap that you don't like. And this is what happens is because you are busy, you're like, oh, somebody sent me 5 shirts and I really need shirts. So you keep 4 shirts that you really don't like.
Yeah.
You have to be disciplined to say like, no, if it does not check all these boxes and it's not going to help me get to where I want to go, then I won't keep it.
And Lee, let's get back to the man or woman who now has to go get a new job after this divorce and has never been in the workforce before, or is starting to look for a brand new career in a different field. Where do they start on deciding how to even dress for that resume, how to dress for the part?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, kind of in the business world, particularly with like interviews and corporate things going on right now, there's a lot of people sort of dressing in a way that they think they should, instead of dressing in a way that's actually going to make sense for the industry that they're in or what they do. So when people come to me and they are going to be doing an interview, first step is asking how much research they've done on the company. So you can learn a ton online. You can learn a ton from their Facebook page. You can learn a ton from, you know, just basically stalking them online to figure out what's their culture like. What are people wearing? And then I take it as far as telling people, like, go sit in the parking lot and watch people go in and out. You can tell a lot about a culture of a company by what people are doing and wearing, going in and out. And that tells you the level of, you know, how cool you could be or how buttoned up and structured you should be. So you can learn a lot about that. I just recently had, I almost called him a kid. He's not a kid. He's like early 20s. I'm so old.
Oh, stop.
But he was like doing his first interviews, and it was very interesting because one was like a tech company that was like, the culture was really cool. You know, everybody was wearing hoodies, everybody was under 30. And so he still wore a suit, but we put things like funky socks and a pocket square and an open collar. Versus the other job, which was in a different sort of finance industry that was very stuffy. We made it true to him, but it was a lot more buttoned up. So you do have to pay attention to that.
So that people, I really want to, like, whoever's watching this, get clear on how little superficial this is when they fully understand the concept of what you're talking about. Can you describe in your own words, what does it do for that kid, or I guess the 20-year-old? For the young man who gets to wear those funky socks or just a few accessories. What does it do for him in his job, getting to have a little piece of him with him, you know, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think whether or not you are going into an interview or whether you are just in your job period, there's a really important concept that I teach where you are dressing for two people. So you're first dressing for yourself because you've got to make yourself feel awesome, because the more awesome you feel, the better job you're going to do. And people know this. And then the second person you're dressing for is either that customer that's coming in, or, you know, maybe it is your boss or your team, so that they also are feeling confident about you. So it's the idea of having this sort of 100% certainty. When you get dressed, it gives you a feel of like, I have 100% certainty in myself, and everybody else that comes into contact with me has 100% certainty in me, which is not like, nobody wrote that in like the Dress for Success book of like, make sure your tie is all buttoned up.
Yeah.
Because then that is superficial, but there's a whole backing and a reason behind it that ultimately is going to help you be successful in either finding the job or keeping the job or whatever it is.
And so let's translate that to, again, the mom or the dad that now has to crawl out of bed after a divorce and doesn't feel like it. And they're going to the grocery store, or they're going to their kid's soccer game or baseball game. Because, I mean, you've told me, hey, Sarah, you should not be wearing your yoga pants going to your son's, baseball game. You never know who you're going to meet as far as, attracting a great referral source, attracting a client. And it goes for everybody. You don't have to be a lawyer to want to attract positive people around you. But when you come in with that certainty, you attract more positive energy around you. But why is it important for that person who maybe they're not even looking for a job, but to crawl out of bed, put on something that makes them feel good, and step outside? Why does it even matter for that person?
It's one of these things that's almost like a habit. And slowly, before you realize it, if you make a decision, and that's the most important part, you make a decision to give yourself that part of self-care, to be like, I feel like ass. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's a really hard process. But you make a decision to do it as the best version of yourself possibly can, especially if you have children involved, because they're watching and they see you. And so when you get out of bed and you look as bad as you feel, everybody else knows that too, and that's fine. But the more you can kind of give yourself that gift to be like, I've made a decision to be the best version of myself. You dress in a way that makes you feel good, even if it's, a pinky nail amount of better of the day. Eventually you're going to wake up and you're going to feel way better than you ever imagined 10 days ago or 30 days ago or 60 days ago, whatever it is.
And I think you've said this before, where putting on a outfit or presenting yourself in a way that is the best version of yourself, that makes you feel like the best version of yourself. It's like putting a cape on, right? Like that superhero cape.
It is kind of like a superhero. And I think sometimes when you're going through something that is so difficult in your life, you almost do have to put on a costume. And it's your costume of just like, I'm getting through this, damn it. Like, it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make it to the other side. So if you can't tap into how you want to feel and you just kind of need to push through it, it's a great way to do it, to just make a decision to be like, red nail polish makes me feel like a superhero. I'm going to wear it.
Yeah.
Or, this one pair of jeans makes my butt look good and I can eat donuts and I'll feel great in it. I'm going to do it. Whatever it is.
Or the funky socks. The funky socks are really in right now. Well, they actually have been.
That's true. We should mention, though, for men, I think it is it's a very interesting transition for men because women talk about this kind of stuff all the time. You talk about it with your friends, you look through fashion magazines, you're constantly influenced about what to wear. And for men in particular, and for quite a few men that I've had who have gone through divorce, it's a transition from the perspective of they've never in their entire lives had an opportunity to make a decision solely by themselves on what they will look like and how they will present themselves. Because it's this thing that happens where, like, you know, your mom picked out your clothes and you're like, great, I don't have to go to the store. That'll be awesome. And then you get married and your wife likes to buy you things, so you let her do that. And you sort of wake up one day and then you don't have either one of those things and you're like, huh. And you end up sort of dressing like a teenage boy.
Yeah.
By default, because you just really have never had that opportunity. So particularly for men, this is an interesting exercise to kind of really kind of consider who they are and how they want to look and what they want to feel like, because it's one that most of them haven't done before.
Yeah, and I think that also because our society so much creates all these magazines and attracts the women to the fashion industry, for men, it's almost like that's not where I'm meant to be. And they have no information, they have no knowledge on where to start. And then now that you don't have the wife to dress you anymore, but you have to still go to your job every day. And hopefully one day you get, you know, romance back in your life and you have to dress.
Yeah.
I think of that. Okay. But Lee, I think what's so great about what you do goes back to what we talk about with happily ever after divorce being in reverse. Am I not? Can you hear me, Lee?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You just flipped out, but you're good now.
Okay. But this is a transition in your life. They can reinvent themselves. They can recreate themselves. And I think it's so fantastic that there is resources out there like yourself that helps them make that transition where they've never even asked before, who are you and what do you want?
Yeah.
So Lee, if somebody I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So if somebody, can you tell us a little bit about how people can find you, tell them about where we can find your book, your website, if somebody was interested in working with you, what would be the best way to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is leeheyward.com, and it's LeeHeyward.com. And the book that Sarah's talking about is called Strategically Suited. It's geared particularly for entrepreneurs or people who are in a position where their income is affected by how they present themselves and that they have to kind of sell themselves. But it does give you a framework to kind of rethink about how you are doing that and how you can do it to actually make more money or kind of climb the ladder that you want to do. So it's a cool resource. It's actually a really quick read.
And it is on Amazon.
Yes, it's on Amazon, and it's also, you can also get a copy off my website.
Okay. If somebody was interested in working with you, they're an entrepreneur and they want to build their image and themselves, where can they find you?
Where can they find me? Sorry, you were blipping out.
Yeah, where can they find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, so they can shoot me an email at hello@leeheyward.com, or just pop onto leeheyward.com and there's a little contact form.
Also, guys, if you have a team that you're leading and you want to rebrand how your team or give them some help in everything that we talked about, I highly recommend you bringing me to your company, having them meet the team and help coach through who they are, who they want to be, and how they can best dress for that. We've done that here, and we had a fabulous time. Everybody truly could not stop singing Lee's praises. So we will send a link for her website through this Facebook Live feed. And Lee, thank you again so much for joining us in Boston. You are fabulous. And I look forward to everything else we're going to be doing and we're going to see from you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. This was fun. And good luck to everybody who is watching this, because you can totally have the happily ever after feeling awesome result.
Awesome. Thank you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.